Good afternoon, everyone. Wonderful to be back again today. And today we're going to do some work with our grade 9s. And I'm sure this is that you have quite a good idea about. This is English, lesson 2 for grade 9, parts of speech. And you will notice we're only doing nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Now, I'm Mrs. Swart, and I'm going to be working through this with you. So what is a part of speech? Well, it's actually quite simple. I think you all know already that when we think of parts of speech, it's actually the name of a word. Now, words have meaning, but that's not what this is about. This is about the name of the word. And it's quite interesting to think that a word can mean something, but it can also have a different name to what it means. You think about it. I have a name, you have a name. And even our words have names. So it's actually something quite unique and something very special. So since words have meanings, but also names, we're going to find out it's because of where they are situated in a sentence. So you'll find there are words that can be used as nouns, but they might also serve as, for instance, an adjective. And that makes it very exciting. So what are nouns? First of all, do you struggle to identify nouns? Do you find, I'm not quite sure whether this is a noun or a verb? Well, most nouns can take the, a, or an in front of them, but not our proper nouns. So if you look around you, look at your classmates, think to yourself, how many proper nouns are you? It's very, very simple because every learner has a name and a surname. And those are all proper nouns and they begin with capital letters. So we think of it this way. Look around, we see our friends, we know that their names start with capital letters, and that's proper nouns. The names of people, Simon Stevens, townships or towns, Tabong, Welkom, Bloemfontein, books, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the Holy Bible, the Quran. So there are a lot of different proper nouns. Brand names like Samsung, diseases like influenza. And then, of course, we say, proper nouns always start on a capital letter. But do they? That's not quite true because there are exceptions to the rule. And that is because we have things like brand names, Adidas, Airbnb, Amazon.com. So you see, all of these are examples of proper nouns in which the rules have been twisted. These are the exceptions. And that is what we see here. So, what about common nouns? Now, common nouns are written with lowercase letters or small letters, unless they begin right at the beginning of a sentence, then we know, it's going to be a capital letter. But look at this picture, very simply. There's a desk, there's a chair, there are drawers that can be pulled out, there's a lamp on the desk, there are shelves, there are files, walls, windows, bin, floor. See how many common nouns we have. You and I can be a proper noun. If you say it's Mrs. Celeste Swart, then it's a proper noun. Then it's written in capitals. But what happens if you say the woman or the child or the boy? Then it becomes a common noun. Common noun, all it really tells you, it's everyday. It's not specific. Your proper noun is very specific. So that is why when we speak about proper nouns, we know that we're talking about something very specific, but common nouns, it could be anything, really. Collective nouns. This is when we have a lot of something, and it's a group or a collection of it. That's where the word collective comes from. We think of a pair of shoes, a bunch of keys, a galaxy of stars, a quiver of arrows. I think that is such a beautiful one. A library of books. But if it's just stacked one on top of the other, we would speak of a stack of books. So there's a great variety of these. You can go and look them up and see how many different types you can get. A school of fish or a shoal of fish. Wonderful different types. It's very exciting to see what there is. Then we get down to something else that's quite interesting. Did you know that when we look at things like abstract nouns, abstract, you know what it means? It means it's something different. It's something you can't really put your finger on. So it's not tangible. I can't touch it. But it's a quality or a feeling I have or an emotion. If we look at the sentence, the happy children. Happy is an adjective. But how do we change the adjective into an abstract noun? Very simply like this. If you say the happy children, and you say the what of the children, the happiness of the children, the kind man, the kindness of the man, the love of the people. So love is also an abstract noun. And you can see the children jumping up and down. They're so happy here because they have love in their lives. So there we bring in the love of the children or the love of mankind. We have this beautiful abstract noun. Okay, and yes, there can be negative ones as well. It's not all positive, but we like to look at the positive side of it. Now, pronouns. I'm not going to spend too much time on the pronouns, but I want you to understand something that's really, really important, and that is the following. And that is that we are just touching on some of the pronouns. As the same as when we get to verbs, we're not going to look at all the different types of verbs that you find. So with the pronouns as well, we're going to only look at a few because there are various types. Very simply, if you think of saying the man, he, the dog, it, the boys, they. And this is something that's going to be very, very handy to use when you do a summary, when you have to put words or put the sentences in your own words. Then being able to replace your nouns, your common nouns, and even your proper nouns with your pronouns. You think of something like Harry Potter, you would say he. Mrs. Swart, you would say she. So you see how easy it really is to do this. So make sure that you do know how to apply this. Okay, so let's carry on quickly. Quickly look at these two. There's the personal pronouns, possessive pronouns. Personal is I, he, she, it. All of those are personal. Possessive shows ownership or possession. It's very simply linked to possessive. And then there's some more that we will look at another stage. But in the meantime, if you have that yellow and red book, the Bible for English, then you can have a look in there at the different types. You'll find everything you need in that book. It's a wonderful source. Adjectives now. You cannot learn an adjective if you don't know what a noun is. So let's look very carefully at what our adjectives are. What does an adjective do? An adjective tells us more about the noun. Yeah, you know that. So we don't just say a baby. What do we say? A tiny baby. And the adjective then answers the question, what kind of a baby is it? It's a tiny baby. And then we have something else. You know the degrees of comparison, where you have comparative and superlative. Comparative, two being compared. Superlative, three or more being compared. So we see the older girl walk quickly. Old describes the girl. Is also an adjective. The tallest boy won the race. So what do we know there? That describes him, because if we see the picture, we know who won the race. Then we have something fascinating that happens, and this has appeared in matric papers before, not like this, but something similar, in which, and what could be a proper noun, actually is describing something else. You could have something like the South African flag. South African is then in an adjectival position because it's describing the flag. So if it's like the Italian embassy, Italian here is serving as an adjective. It isn't a noun here because it's describing the embassy. So remember that one. And then verbs. Very simply, our verbs are our doing words, runs, walks, eats, jumps. And then it's often linked to things like to. If you put to in front of the verb, you can often identify it as to run, to walk, to eat. And the verb to be is, am, are, have, has. All of those are also verbs. So don't forget, when you look at this picture, it's not just about singing, which is a beautiful verb, but those are the obvious ones. There are some others that you can go and look up when you get the opportunity, because there's a wide variety of verbs. And I really hope and trust, and I'm sure you are going to do this, because you're going to do this to the best of your ability. Remember what I said when you were grade 8? Practice makes perfect. You will now click on the link below to complete the exercise and identify the types of sentences. And there's also a QR code that you can use on the next slide. So remember, you go and you look at the slides that we've shared, because everything you need is there. And this is just a little bit of a refresher to see if you remember what we've done. Good luck with the quiz and keep safe. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.